Hi, thanks for joining us today on Facebook Live, and to those of you on Instagram on that camera, hello to you as well. I'm your host, Melanie Jones. I'm here with Dr. Rafael Beolchi. Welcome again.
You.
Dr. Beolchi is here for Ultradent Summit, which is happening this weekend. And since he flew all the way here from Brazil, we are just abusing him. So we did a lecture last night for local Utah dentists. We went live on Facebook a little earlier to talk about whitening. Watch that later. Don't leave me now. Hang out with us. And now we're going to talk about direct composite veneers. And we're so happy that Dr. Beolchi is here with us on his birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Still looking young.
Yeah, it's not easy to turn 18. It's not
18.
Every day you do that. Again.
Actually, it is every day you turn 18.
Yeah.
I've noticed. So Dr. Beolchi is here with us to go through a hands-on demonstration of using the UVeneer template system for direct composite veneers. And we're so fortunate because we also have Dr. Sigal Jacobson, the inventor of this product, is on our Facebook feed, available to answer live Q&A. So thank you for joining us, Dr. Jacobson, and to you, Dr. Beolchi.
Thank you.
So we'll start here with this typodont. Last night, you may have seen this on Facebook, Dr. Beolchi was going through a whole big jar of extracted teeth, trying to find the perfect ones to mount in this typodont. Now, we selected the teeth, and to get them to stay in there, we had to mount them with red Duralay. So if you're seeing the lingual aspect here, this typodont does not have gingivitis.
Seems like gingivitis, but I swear to God it's not. Okay. Well, the idea here, Melanie, when it was to create a more realistic approach, and this realistic approach was to get, different shapes, little gap that we can see here, different colors. We can see this is a wider one, this is a darker one. And we're gonna mainly work on those two here. If we have time, I might use UVeneer on the other two, but it might take a little longer than the Facebook Live. But let's see how it goes. But the main idea is to work on those two, and we can see different shapes, different colors. We have a gap, and how fast and how predictable. Also, I think it is important to know this. I wanna do, it's a more I will not say complicated technique, but one that takes a little longer. I wanna use the UVeneer with two shades instead of only one to show that it's possible. This is a very common questioning. I don't know if Dr. Sigal has this kind. Probably she has as well. This kind of questioning. Can I use with more than one color? You can use with more than one color. It's kind of easy. That's what I want to show. But it's easy if you have a composite. This is my opinion. If you have a composite that works with you, not against you. What is a composite that works with you? It's one that gives you the ability to balance opacity and translucency. Besides color, and to be honest, more than color is not that complicated. Choosing the right color is not that complicated. Basically, it's going to be a 2, maybe a 1. But more than color, we need to learn how to balance, opacity and translucency. And to do that, we need something that helps us, that works with us, not against us. And that's why I like mosaic a lot, because I'm going to use first a dentin layer, a very thin layer of dentin, to create a more homogeneous surface. Only one color to make both of them, both of those tooth, number 9 and number 10, more homogeneous. So that's a dentin initial layer, very thin, because the dentin layer on mosaic is very opaque and helps us a lot. Then I'm going to use an enamel layer with the UVeneer, and the UVeneer is going to give me basically everything. It's going to give me the translucency that is a more natural looking with the help of the composite. It's going to give me also the anatomy, the shape of the tooth, and it's already balanced. So, the proportions are already there. I don't have to, it's a no-brainer. The thinking was done before. So all the proportions, everything in terms of anatomy is already there. That's the idea of what we're going to share today.
Perfect. Yeah, you absolutely can use one shade for doing this restoration with UVeneer, but if we have the master here all the way from Brazil, we're going to do something masterful. So let's get started on this. You'll start with etching, I think.
Yeah, because those are real teeth. So the first thing I'm going to do is the etching. Since I only have enamel here, and this situation is only enamel, you guys are gonna notice that I'm gonna use a total etch technique here. So I'm spreading here the ultra etch. Probably the audience already knows ultra etch is already a famous product.
Well, look at the control on that.
That's the thing. And
if you were to hold that vertical, I think it won't drip, yeah?
It will not. It will not. One thing that I like, that you can sign your name if you want. Like I can place an R, then an A. You can write your name on that is the level of control you have of ultra etch. But besides that, I'm using a total etch here because there's no denting involved. In cases where I have denting involved, I think it's worth to think about a self-etch. So peak does give you this option. You can use it as a total etch technique. That's what I'm using here. And I'm using here because it's only enamel involved. But if there was any denting, I think that in that case I would use the self-etch. After, respecting the time, let's say some 30 seconds for at least 30 seconds for enamel, I'm gonna wash that up here on our. And it's important to wash everything out, to flush all the phosphoric acid from there.
Now we're recommending 15-second etch time for enamel and dentin. But obviously you have a different way, yeah?
No, actually not. I think enamel knows how to take care of themselves with the etching, so it's not that important on enamel. On dentin, if you're doing a total etch, on dentin it is very important. If you're using ultra etch, it is less important because ultra etch also knows how to take care of dentin. And taking care of what? Taking care of knowing how much we're taking the minerals off. So there's a specific amount we want to do that. If we use another brand or another kind of acid that doesn't gives you this control, it might be dangerous. You might be demineralizing more than the adhesive can penetrate.
We always show it like this, right?
Exactly. So what we need is, if I demineralize that, I need this amount of penetration. If I demineralize more, there is a problem because the bonding will not penetrate that. Ultra etch helps a lot with that, a lot. That's why it's a self-limiting material. But again, if you want to make your life easier, use the self-etch. So the self-etch on dentin, I think it is a faster procedure, it's a more predictable procedure, and it is a very trustful procedure nowadays. But
quick question, if your resin doesn't penetrate to the depth of the
bonding
etch
agent,
pattern,
the resin,
yeah, to the depth of the etch pattern, can you experience sensitivity?
Sensitivity probably would be the first one, but a premature failure and everything that we do not want. So premature failure, sensitivity, micro leakage eventually. So this is all the things that it's not the only reason for sensitivity, one of the reasons, but it's one of the major players, I guess, one of the main reasons. So here we can see that I already did the etching, so we can see the etched pattern, and I'm gonna use the peak. So this is the peak universal bond, but I'm using it as a regular technique.
Total etch technique.
A total etch, yeah, the classical one. The audience probably is already comfortable with this technique as well. So here I'm only brushing. I don't need that much, how do we say, pressure when we're working on enamel.
And that's an important distinction. So on dentin we recommend scrubbing. On enamel we recommend painting or brushing. And why is that?
And because we need, in dentin, we need the bonding, the resin on the bonding agent to penetrate the collagen fibers that has been demineralized. So we need to apply some pressure there. We need to apply some pressure there. And by applying some pressure on dentin, we can make this penetration easier. On enamel, we don't need that, so we don't need to apply too much pressure. Actually, you don't need to apply any pressure on enamel. It's easier. Adhesion on enamel, it's way easier and more predictable than in dentin, long-lasting as well. Two tips I think it is important to give on bonding, both enamel and dentin, is take your time. Take your time on applying. Take your time. It is, it's not only placing a drop of the material. Take your time. It pays, the extra seconds you use on this procedure, it pays for sensitivity, for long-lasting results, for everything. After I applied, it is mandatory. It's not that it's important. This is mandatory to remove the solvents, so basically alcohol, so you can, a gentle blow of air from far away. This is my 3 water air syringe. So far away, I'm kind of blowing the solvents off, and this is the appearance that we need, something that looks wet, moist. It is not, obviously it's not. And then we can photocure. And this is a very predictable, very strong procedure.
And I want to point out also, the curing light has a new sleeve.
Oh yeah, this is a very nice new sleeve. This is the Velo Grand. The Velo Grand has a larger head, so there's a larger area of illumination. It covers, it helps a lot, specifically in 2 cases, I guess. MODs and veneers. This is what we're going to do. In one shot, since the beam is also homogeneous, in one shot you can cure the whole composite, and there's no problem doing that. So the idea is you fit the Velo inside the new sleeve, and you remove in front of the patient, you might remove this sleeve, and the patient can see that it's done in his presence. So it's done for him. So this is this new sleeve. Actually, I have an article, it's not published yet, and we measure the amount of light that is lost when you use that. This is a concern that people sometimes, when I'm lecturing on photocuring, if we need to use a protection, of course you need to use a protection because of cross-contamination. And if there's a problem when you use a barrier sleeve, depends on the barrier sleeve. This kind of barrier sleeve, there's a very thin membrane. It's not less than 1% of light is lost. So there is really no concern if we're using a proper sleeve, a good sleeve. I'm using on extra power, I'm going to use Velo to make a lot of glasses. Let's see, protection. Protection not only for the patient, for Velo, but for ourselves. Again, remember that blue light is harmful, so you need protection. You, your staff, your patient as well. I'm photocuring it very fast. I'm using the extra power mode. So I need, kind of 5 seconds is already cure. It's more than cure. I already delivered the 16 joules dose in 5 seconds in this mode.
And speaking of curing, you're holding it very close.
Very close, very steady. If you notice, I'm using this finger to control. It's important for the lamp to be steady. So we have to watch what we're doing. We have to stabilize the lamp, but watching with protection and stabilizing in order to make sure that the light is coming out and getting into the composite. This is very, very, very important. This guideline is very important.
I've seen dentists sometimes who will put the curing light right up next to the tooth, and then
this is the most common thing. Yeah, and when he finished the procedure, he's 3 teeth away from when he started.
Yeah.
This is
and
very
they don't even
common.
realize.
No, and the amount of energy that we delivered, it's way low. It's like a third sometimes a fourth of the necessary dose to fully polymerize the composite. So important to stabilize, look at what we're doing, but protection to your eyes as well. So this is cross-contamination. You're protecting your lamp from cross-contamination, but protect yourself against blue light as well. Okay, since now I have a very good bonding procedure here, I'm ready to start the composite placement here. The composite placement here, I will start with the dentin color on both of the tooth here. So by using that, I'm choosing a 1 from Mosaic. You can see it's a very opaque color. You can use as a syringe. It's also available in Compules as well. To be honest, I think I'm going to use Compules because I'm too lazy to get from the... I just said I'm going to use the syringe, but the Compules, it's also a very easy and practical way to use the composite.
scooch it. Yeah, there you go.
To go
I like
into the
how
camera.
you keep me on my toes there, Dr. Beolchi.
And why is that?
First it's a syringe, then it's a comp tool. We're getting crazy over here.
It's right on you know.
I'm just kidding.
Depends on the
Whatever you
mood.
like.
What I'm going to use right now, I have a small amount of composite. Probably I'm going to need a little bit more, not that much. I have to spread. I'm not taking too much. I'm not worrying too much here in with anatomy. Anatomy. Who's going to give me anatomy? The shape of the tooth is going to be the veneer. I'm using denting only to create a more homogeneous layer. In order to do that, I need something that helps me in spreading the composite. I'm going to use the composite wetting resin. This is a material I've been using since, I don't know, since it was launched, I guess.
Now, we talked about this last year. We did a Facebook Live almost exactly 1 year ago, and we talked about composite wetting resin versus using your adhesive as a wetting agent.
So let's remind the people about that again. Good call, Melanie. You should never use your adhesive. I talked that to the audience yesterday. Here, a very great audience. Is there someone watching? Thanks, guys, for yesterday. And I talked to them about that. It is tempting to use the adhesive because it's right there. But the problem with the adhesive, specifically those that they have, the primer and the bonding on the same bottle, is that the primer must contain the solvent that I just volatilized. And the solvent, basically, the solvent is alcohol, and alcohol dissolves your composite. So when you're placing adhesive on the last layer, or any layer of your composite, you're placing this agent, this solvent, usually alcohol, which is a solvent for composites. And there's also the HEMA group. The HEMA group is the hydrophilic one. If you're placing something hydrophilic in your composite, this hydrophilic thing will attach to any pigments that you eat, because it's hydrophilic, like Coca-Cola, coffee, all those things. Red wine, cigarettes, everything. So those are the two basic things. That's why you should never use a bonding agent, specifically bonding agents that contains the primer as well as a wetting agent. You have materials specifically designed for that kind of situation, and that's exactly what the wetting resin does. It was designed for that. It has fillers. It's completely hydrophobic. So it's basically, as I like to say, it's basically a super flowable composite and helps you spreading the dentin shade. And I think it is easy to show here on camera that I spread the layer of dentin very easy. The composite gets very, very, very soft when you do that.
Speaking of which, we had a discussion earlier about warming your composite. How do you feel about warming your composite?
Warming composite is a touchy subject because it's almost religion. There are people that loves to heat the composite. I think it is a technique. I think it is it's more a little bit more complicated technique for cementation. A lot of people use that for cementation. But my point of view on warming the composite, specifically when we're using restorations, is that the temperature that the composite gets until you're using and working it mouth, it comes back to room temperature in some seconds. And we have studies.
You said 40 seconds, I think, right?
If I'm not right, 40 to 60 seconds, it will come up back to the room temperature again. So I think it is easier to use something that, with discretion, you're not using, big amounts of composite wetting. It's only a small amount. I think the people could see that. If they didn't, I'm going to do it again on the central incisor. But it's a very small amount. You place on the spatula. You can place on the composite. I think it is more difficult. You place on the spatula. It's very easy to control. So I think, and this is something that, gives you the control, and the control remains there. Differently when you heat the composite in a matter of seconds, it comes back. I place the glasses again because I'm ready to photocure the first dentin layer. This dentin layer, again, is not meant to give me shape. It's only meant to give me a more homogeneous color along with the neighboring tooth here. So again, I'm photocuring the velo grande embraces the whole tooth. There's no big problem there. I'm photocuring for 5 seconds on the extra power mode, and then I have my 16 joules per square centimeter dose of energy that is necessary to fully polymerize the composite. I'm going to do exactly the same thing that I did on the lateral. I'm going to do on the central, and I think I'm going to use the compule again, because it's easier. So again, I have my spatula here. I'm going to use a little bit of the composite wetting. Again, don't use your bonding. That's when you should use your composite wetting.
So you here, you're kind of freehanding before you put the composite in the template, yes?
Freehanding the
composite,
yeah.
Yes. Some people like to put the composite right in the template, and some people are putting it on the tooth as you're doing. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I think it is important here, Melanie, to specify one thing. If you're using only one layer or if you're using 2 layers. Let's start with this case here. I'm using 2 layers. 2 layers, I think it is mandatory you to freehand the first one. Why is that? Because if I want the next enamel layer to get attached to this one, I need the oxygen inhibition layer of the composite. The oxygen, only as a reminder, what is the oxygen inhibition layer? When I photocure the composite, the whole composite cures except a very thin last layer that is in contact with the oxygen in the atmosphere. And why is that important? Because the next layer will bond to this one because of this inhibition. If I use the UV veneer on this layer, there's no inhibition layer.
So
and the next one will not bond. The next one will not bond.
So if you were to do that, let's say you're completed with your procedure and you realize, oh, I need a little bit more.
You have
here.
to retouch.
You have to do bonding all over again, etch and bond?
You have to, you have to make, to create a little, a grittier surface on the dentin with a burr, on the composite, on the dentin color with a burr. And then it's like repairing a composite. It's the same procedure as repairing a composite. But again, I think it is easy to freehand here because I'm not worried. If you guys notice, I'm really not worried about shape at all, about anatomy. I'm only worried of creating a thin, homogeneous layer. Thin because the composite, even being thin, gives me, and you can notice that the color is already getting closer to the other one. So I'm not worried about anatomy. UV veneer is going to give me that. Also translucency because I'm going to use an enamel color. I'm only creating a more homogeneous surface here. But now if I'm using, let's say, UV veneer on a classic, in most cases I guess, most cases we're going to use UV veneer with only one color and you can get excellent results using only one color. I guess more challenging cases you're going to use this technique, but they are not that common, If you're using UV veneer in only one color, with only one color, I think there's 2 techniques on using that. You can place the composite in the template and then into the tooth, or in the tooth and back, and then you press the template. So when I started, I placed the composite in the tooth and I pressed the template. I thought it was very good, very predictable in terms of knowing how thick the composite will be and everything. But I haven't realized when actually, to be honest, but now I prefer to place on the template. There's a more, you have to take care because it might be bulky if you don't take care. But I think it is easier because that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show exactly that. Placing the composite on the template, I think it is easier to handle the margins, the anatomy that we want, closing the gaps. I think it is easier.
Now in our instructions, we recommend placing the composite on the tooth and then pressing the template in. But I have noticed that as people get more accustomed to the system, then they will start putting it in the template. But you can't do it to begin with because you're not used to how much bulk you can create.
I think it is a good advice. I think it's a good advice. It's exactly what I did. I started placing the composite on the tooth, and again, I didn't notice when, but when I'm more used to the system, I start placing on the templates. And that was also an experience from a colleague yesterday. We were together, I was lecturing there, and he shared his experience, and it's the same experience. He does the same thing. He started on the tooth, and he realized after he got used to the system that it's easier to place on the template rather than the tooth. So that might be a good advice as well.
And I'm going to ask Dr. Segal to chime in on the feed with her opinion on that.
That would be a great input as well, since she's the mother of the system, right? Mm-hmm. Perfect. What we have here, I have then two teeth. Now they both have the dentin collar, the same dentin collar, a very thin layer that I placed. We can see here is not gingivitis, guys. This is the red Duralay, only to make the natural human teeth in position. And we have them with a very thin dentin layer. There's no shape there. You can see it's only a thin layer, but there's no shape involved at all. What I'm going to do right now it is to use the template. The template itself, the idea of the Veneers system is like this. You have basically two sizes. You have two sizes. You have the medium and you have the bigger one. I'm going to use the bigger one because of what? Because I already saw that the central incisor fits very well this number 9. For other audiences, this is the 21. And in Brazil, we call 21. Here in the US, call 9. So I don't know if there's people outside of the US watching that right now. We call the 21. So in the 21 or 9 here in the US, you can see it fits the large. How do we know that it's the large? Because there's a little L here telling me it is the large. And here we can see the notation. Number 1, upper left. Great. If this is the size for this one, then aesthetically speaking, the proportion of the lateral should be this one. So this is the thing about Veneer. All the proportions are already there. You know, all the golden proportions, the 85% proportion, they're already there. So the homework has already been done. We don't have to do that. It's, you know, it's like a friend said one time, it's like a pocket DSD. It's a DSD. It's not a digital, but it's something that you have on your pocket. It's on chair side. So it's not a pocket. It's a chair side quick reference guide for that. It's already there. I'm changing composite. Now I'm going to use the neutral. So this is I want the translucency now from enamel. And we can see here, now I changed the compils. You can also use that where I'm more used, to be honest. In the office, I use way often the syringes. I'm still, you know, as I said, a traditionalist. I like the syringes. But here I'm using the compils only because it's a new thing. It is. It is fun to use as well.
Just to keep me on my toes. Now,
That's the idea. That's
I have
the idea.
a question for you.
Yum.
This system coming in only medium and large, is it possible to be so two size fits all when people have so many different sizes and shapes of teeth?
To be honest, I think the genius of the system, and my regards to Segal regarding that, is because the system is very forgiving. It is not, you're not close to that. So the proximals, you have liberty to the proximals, to the incisal. The template's now not our boss. We are the template's boss. So we have liberty to make a little wider, a little longer. So I think it helps a lot. That thing. It is you're not stick to one particular size. You have liberty of changing that. So I'm placing this, as I said, I'm going to place the enamel collar here directly on the template. You can do that in the tooth as well if you want. When you're doing on the template with a clean glove, you can only do that with a powder-free glove and with a clean glove. There's scientific studies on that. You can press with your thumb if you want. With a clean and powderless glove, you can do that, okay? It's a nice study. I think it is from people from Brazil they did that. Oh, sorry. So that is it. Or you can use a spatula as well. Since I have that here, what I'm going to do, and I think this is good. I can show that in camera. I think this is a good advice. I would like to hear from Sigal as well, what she thinks about that. I prefer to press first on cervical, to have a good fit on cervical. Then, with a, like a, I don't know how to say that, but maybe in a trembling motion with some vibration, let's say, you can see the excess of composite coming out here from the proximal.
So how are you going to control the flash that way?
The flash, you mean?
The excess coming out the
That's
side.
the idea. I want excesses, like a cementation. I want excesses from all over the place, except cervical. I don't want there on cervical. So that's why I start on cervical, and I want excesses everywhere, because then I'm sure that there's no gaps, no voids, I don't have any problem in retouching the composite. I'm going to lose a little bit of composite, that is true, but not a big concern. I'm more concerned on having to redo the restoration. So this is the excesses that I have here on proximal, on both mesial, on incisal as well. Forgive this, not gingivitis, I swear. Here as well. So this is where the template's forgiven. I can make the teeth longer, like here. I can make it even shorter. So that's where the system not forgives you, but the system allows you to customize a little bit. So it helps a lot. And the biggest help I notice, for me at least, is using the handle as an extension to what? To the orientation of the root. So by using that as an extension of the root, it helps you a lot in visualizing. Let's say you're going to do the following, the neighboring tooth. You use that as a guidance. So it's easy to make them parallel. It's easy to see them from incisors as well. If one is too mesially or too distally or too mesially inclined. And so if you use the handles as guidance, it is very, very, very predictable. With a very thin spatula, this is very important, with a very thin spatula, I will start doing two things. You don't need to apply too much pressure now, but you need to apply some pressure in order to make sure that you can remove the excesses of composite without moving the template. So I just removed that. And I'm using a little bit of the composite wetting here. Make it softer. If there's some excesses on cervical, remove that as well. Ideally, on a real patient, you're going to have some retraction cord already placed here. So this is important to remember. Removing excesses, cervical, also mesial.
I was just going to ask you how you ensure you create proper embrasures, and I think that's what you're showing us now.
Yeah, on a patient, it's also important. I'm very eager to use, I like to use a lot the Teflon tape. But I learned from Sigal that it's easier to come back to the mylar strip specifically when we're using here on the two centrals. So for some time I already, retired the mylar strip, but when I'm using the Veneer, it's way easier to have a proper embrasure, a good adaptation here using the mylar strip as well. I don't have the mylar strip here, but I can demonstrate with a regular metal, but let's pretend this is a mylar strip. That's what the mylar strip you can do. You can place the mylar strip, again, it's not gingivitis. you can place the mylar
You're
strip
really worried
here.
about that.
Oh yeah, because if there's any perio watching us, he will agree with me. You never do anything without a proper healed and healthy tissue.
Red Duralay.
It's red
We
Duralay.
should put a lower third on the screen. It's not gingivitis.
Exactly, and
it's red
flashing
Duralay.
like not gingivitis, not actual gingivitis. So you place the mylar strip. Let's pretend it is a mylar strip, and you you can pull it a little bit, and it is very you're gonna have a very soft and shiny and free of excesses surface. So that's the idea. I already have my composite in position. I double checked that the inclination of the handle as an extension of the orientation of the inclination of the tooth is good. Then with eye protection, we're gonna photocure again. Stabilizing as close as possible. Let's give it 5 seconds only to be sure.
And while you're doing that, I'd like to say hello to some people who have joined us, especially Dr. Spahiu, who was here at Icons of Dentistry in June. She has done so many cases of Uveneer, and if you want to see some beautiful work, the Uveneer by Ultradent Facebook page has tons of cases by Dr. Spahiu, and she's amazing. She's
Nice.
She's Dr. Jacobson, Dr.
Good to
Segal's
have you.
little pet, actually, her favorite.
Nice.
And then we have Paula Trembles-Young joining us again, and also Dr. Carlos.
I feel honored with this audience. Now that my responsibility just increased 2 notches. So the idea here is that I think it is possible to see on camera how shiny, how fast, anatomy is already there. And again, if you're using a good composite, and I love mosaic because of that. Now I use the translucent enamel, something that it will emulate enamel. So gives me, this translucency. Light now penetrates a little bit, so you have this translucency, a natural-looking translucency. Also, it's harder to see under this light because there's a lot of illumination, but it's a very there's opalescence as well. So it's an opalescent composite as well. So if you put that with a proper anatomy, a very good anatomy, that's the thing. And another thing, there is no oxygen inhibition layer here. So polishing procedure, Melanie, here is like, it's a matter more of removing some proximal excesses with a scalpel than doing a little finishing procedure. I want to use the new Jiffy spirals to do that. But on the surface itself, you only do if you wanted to, some textures more. But actually, most of the patients, they will ask you to leave like this because it's very, very shiny surface, very polished surface. And it's very hard to achieve this level of, polishness, if this is a word, but...
of luster, right?
Luster.
Of
luster.
I saw some doctors on Dental Town. If there are any townies watching, hello, we love you. I saw some doctors on Dental Town discussing the Uveneer system, and one of them said, okay, all of you freehand masters, maybe you could get the same result without using Uveneer, but no way you could do it as fast, and certainly not with the polish that you get with Uveneer,
I agree with him.
Not with the luster.
I agree with him because it's scientifically proven that the best luster you're going to get is when you use a mylar strip. So this is scientifically proven. That's why we use that on research that we do as well. When we need a polished surface, we use the mylar strip. Mm-hmm. And the concept of using Uveneer is the same thing. So it is unbeatable. There's no way. It is, it's not even competition to try to do freehand. It is possible. You want to do more texture. I like to do that. But there is no way you can disagree with the point that is faster. Way faster. It is time saving, but a lot. Let's say it takes me 10 to 15 minutes per tooth to get a proper luster, a proper polishing. With that took me like 3 minutes?
Seconds, yeah.
And seconds after you did. So this is an important point.
And that works because you're blocking the formation of oxygen inhibition layer, right?
Exactly.
And what I've learned from Dr. Segal is that also has other benefits besides the luster, right? So it's a stronger surface.
It lasts longer.
Lasts longer.
It will the composite. It will require less maintenance as well. You know, because
more resistant to staining.
Definitely more resistant to staining. Less polishing afterwards. Let's say after 2 years, it's good to see the composite how it's doing, and it is more predictable. It's way more predictability, and this is also scientifically proven. So this is a good thing.
Dr. Fabio Salomão.
Oh, it's a good friend from Brazil.
Bruno
Moura.
Both
Brunão,
say hello.
Fabião. Good to see you guys. Good to have
Tudo
you.
bem?
Tudo bom? Bom dia, rapaziada. Bom ver vocês por aqui também. I just said hello, and it's good to have you then. It's an honor for me to have them as well, and welcoming them into our live demonstration. Good to have good friends watching as well. Okay, now that I did the first one, I'm only using I'm addicted to the Teflon tape. That's why I'm using Teflon tape. I can use also a mother strip or even the metallic strip, but I'm using the Teflon tape only because I'm addicted to it and it was available. And what I like to use on the Teflon tape, I tend to use two sides instead of using only one. I don't know if I showed that in camera. It's a small tip that I got from a friend. Carlos Franci told me that. Instead of using only one strip, what I do like this. I make a little turn around my finger, and with a pinching motion, I make it double. And by making it double, I make it a little thicker. Then I place on the neighboring teeth here. You can use a mylar again, but it's a personal preference. It's not that much. What helps me a lot using the Teflon tape is that now I'm gonna place again the composite directly on the template. So I placed directly on the template. Okay, let's use the other technique, the regular one, with a spatula. The other one I pressed with the finger, so this one I'm gonna press with the spatula as well. Nice. Very easy. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. So I'm going to press cervically, and with this motion, like this trembling motion here with some vibration, I'm expressing, we can see there's composite being expressed from all other regions there. Exactly right now is when the handles for me are mandatory. Having the Teflon tape on this tooth, it helps me visualize the inclination that I need here on the other tooth. So this is the inclination of the central incisor, and this is the inclination of my lateral. So it's easier to make adjustments. We can see from here that it's kind of buccally inclined, so it's easier for me to adjust that here. I think it is better. If we see like this, I probably might want to bend a little bit here. So it's easier, to have this proportion. Another thing that people ask, and you ask me as well, Melanie, how much do we get stuck to the shape of the veneer? I think it's important. The basic shapes of the tooth, triangular, square, oval, who decides that is less the tooth and more the gingiva. So that's what the thing, based on the papilla of the patient, you're going to have the shape of the tooth. So again, that's why the system is so forgiving for us. Now I'm going to remove again the same thing. I'm going to remove again the excess material from the proximals. Of course, this you're not turning the patient to do that. You want to.
And while you're doing this, may I ask, how do you ensure that your margins are smooth and well shaped?
The mylar strip. I think the mylar strip. That's why I came back based on Sigal's experience. I started using the mylar strip again when I'm using the veneer. because those proximal margins, when you use the mylar, a material that I kind of have retired, I started using again to get this adaptation on the proximals. So exactly, since I don't have the mylar strip here, but I have this metal one, what you can do is this. You take it a little bit here. That's the idea. With the matrix in position there.
There you go.
So that's what you do. You use the mylar strip. You pull it out, or you can pull it in also. So it's very easy to do.
Especially on a typodont, right?
I think it is easier on patients.
Really?
Yeah, because you don't have to hold the patient's mouth. The patient does it
That's
for
true.
you. I think it is easier on patients. And they pay you afterwards. This guy's not paying me, so.
That's true. Let's shoot that on camera.
It's already there. I already checked the position using the handles. I'm addicted doing that, so I used the handles to see. So if we see like this, I'm using the handle to have this. So, and again, you can go and on and on and on for the other tooth as well. So you're using like this. You're making sure they're all aligned when you're using. That's the idea. Use the handles. It helps a lot in visualizing, the position of the tooth, the teeth, as a group.
Mm-hmm.
Let's photocure that.
This seems to be a very minimally invasive way
It is.
to improve a patient's smile.
It is. It's minimally invasive. It is cheaper. It is faster. And those are the three, I don't know, maybe more important words we just used. And this is the final result here.
Beautiful luster.
Beautiful luster. What I have to do, again, I have to now to work on these excesses here on the proximal. But this with a scalpel, we do very fast. So if we see one side on the other side, and we've been talking and doing, we can do that in less than 5 minutes per tooth, easily,
Right.
easily, clinically easly. The whole procedure takes what? I just did that in the Philippines with a patient, a live demonstration there. And there was caries, there was some gingivitis involved, and we did that in less than the four incisors. We did in less than 2 hours, and from start there was anesthesia involved because I had to remove some caries. So the whole procedure, 4 teeth, caries, scaling, everything took less than 2 hours, including finishing, because I had to do a little finishing and some occlusal adjustment as well. Less than 2 hours, and you can make it even faster in your office. When we're working in our office, you can do it even faster. So this is a helpful tool. But one thing I think it is important to say, I already heard that, but I cannot use in this particular case. It is not meant to be the ultimate answer to all of our problems in the clinic. It's only a tool. It's a very helpful. And I'm amazed. I think, how old is Veneer? Maybe 3 years, I guess. It's being launched.
That sounds about right. Maybe Dr. Segal will chime in with how long it's been on the market.
I'm being amazed how much you can use. Particularly, I used a lot. I'm going to use with a friend. We have a very nice case we're going to do. We're going to use on indirect restorations, of composite restorations. It's a cheaper alternative. We're going to do on a model and then to cement in mouth. But first, what I use, I use the Veneer a lot for wax up. So I love doing my wax ups, especially when I'm doing the restoration. I think it is very important for us to do the wax up. I think it is a good exercise, is something that is more, the restoration is more predictable when you're doing freehand or when you're using the Veneer. So I use the Veneer a lot for wax up on the models. So this is another use you can, it's not only clinical, you can use it clinically, you can use for the wax up, you can use for provisionals, you can make your own shade guides with your composite. There's so many uses.
Have you used it for porcelain repair before?
I never used for porcelain repair, to be honest, but you can.
Okay.
Newton Fall, for instance, I was, we lectured together in a very nice a congress that we had in Notre Dame in Brazil, the bridges, and he has a beautiful technique when he uses on class 5s. He does out of mouth, and he does that on class 5s as well. So I just got the information that the Veneers is already 4 years. So times goes. It's amazing how that's a saying that I have. If you think it is any given number, add at least one. So I thought it was 3, this 4.
Just don't do it with your age.
Yeah, because doesn't work that best.
You're still 18. Do you ever use Veneer for class 4 or class 5?
Class 5 based on Newton Fall's idea. I loved. He does without bonding the tooth. Then he places on the tooth on class 5. On class 4, to be honest, I tend to use the wax up, but you can as well. You can, but it's been 18 years also. So this is a good example. This is a good example. Where it's gonna be useful is up to the dentist. It's not up to me to decide. So I know for me when it's useful for veneering multiple teeth, it makes faster, predictable for wax up, for provisionals. I like it a lot. I have friends that they make custom shade guides. I'm not a big fan of custom made shade guides, but again,
you can.
Whatever, floats their boat. That's the expression I get.
Yes, good job. The
I'm
first
a good
one
listener.
that's not Brazilian and involving a misbehaving animal.
A misbehaving animal?
Yeah, we talked about snakes you can't kill.
But that is also an expression in...
No.
It's not. I just invented
and then,
that one.
Dogs with multiple owners.
Oh, this is a good one, yeah.
Yeah.
A dog with multiple owners dies of hunger. Too much people caring for that. So this is, I think, it is a good way to show that I have the proportions already here. Oh, let's say I want to make this one a little longer. You can. When I removed on purpose the incisal, but if you want, you can overlap a little bit here. There's no problem. You can overlap. I removed because I wanted to remove. So I have this, let's say, this shape. So it's a very forgiving. You're not. This is not a concern. You're not, closed and embraced and limited by the veneer. It's not a constraining jacket. It's something that gives you the option of doing not several shapes, but to customize that. So let's say you're doing that on a husband and a wife. They're not leaving the office with the same smile, because the embrasure, the gingival, the appearance is different, the position is different. So that is not a concern for me.
Can you compare veneer to composeres?
Yeah, I think I can. I think the systems of composeres or even otherwise, they work as well, but I don't think they relate immediately. I think I like both techniques. Otherwise, specifically, I don't have any experience with composere, but with otherwise I have. The results are very nice. I think there are different techniques for different kinds of procedures. My experience is that the learning curve for otherwise might be a little longer, but also a very nice technique. The difference is this one you can autoclave. You can put it on an autoclave. It's autoclavable.
One-time investment, right?
One-time investment. The otherwise or the composer, you buy, the patient takes them with them. Also,
one
very
set
nice. One set for every patient, every tooth that you use. I like both techniques, but I really don't think I think they are meant to do different things.
Right.
Might be some cases that you can use both of them. You have some advantages on one side, some disadvantages on other sides. On both techniques, I think both are valid. And but my experience is that composer probably it is a little steeper. The learning curves might be a little steeper than the veneer. It took me less time to be accustomed with the veneer technique.
How long will a composite veneer last?
Ideally forever, but
Ideally.
in an ideal world it would be forever. According to the ADA, it should be 5 years at least. I think 5 years too small. I think it is not a good set of time. I like seen composite lasting longer than that. But it will last. I think I like this idea. This is an oversimplification. It's important to notice that it's what I'm going to say is an oversimplification. But basically, when we're struggling with a restoration, can be direct and indirect, but since we're talking about composite, let's talk about composite. If you're struggling with a composite that's breaking and chipping and you have problems with that, usually the problem might be on this tripod. Is either occlusion, either adhesion, either photocuring. So we have to pay attention to those three. It's an oversimplification. There's more to it. So if it is an acidic ambient, if the patient is always eating, sodas and eating acidic food and beverage, also it's gonna last less. Another thing, bruxism. Another thing, the remaining walls. How much of peripheral enamel that we have. So there are several things there. But if I have to come down to the three most important ones, is going to be occlusion, adhesion, photocuring. Take care of those three and you'll be amazed how much we can trust a composite restoration. From my point of view, they last longer than 5 years. But again, it's also important to remember the failure ratio of composites is around 1 to 3% of the composite. So 1 to 3, let's say 5, some articles will say 5%. Let's stick to 3%, the average. 3% of our composites will fail within a year. The failure rate for implants are 2%. So you do 100 implants, 98 will succeed, 2 of them will fail. Composites, let's take an average, 97 out of 100 composites you do will succeed. Within a year, 3%, on an average, 3% will fail. So I think it is important also for us to forgive a little bit, because it takes me less than a month, Melanie, to make 100 composites. It means that in a month, if I did 100 composites with a 3% failure rate, it means that 3% might fail, and this is not, a sin. This is not a problem. This is science speaking. So some of the composites will fail because it's not yet an ideal material. There's no ideal material. If you were restoring the tooth, it's because not even the tooth remained there, ideal. And tooth is way better than any composite. Right. So to be a little forgiven, but at least 5 years. But again, pay attention to occlusion, adhesion, photocuring, and you're going to be amazed how much you can trust a composite.
And if you had a failure, it's easy to repair.
Easy to repair. And if you did exactly like we did here, and we can see here, there's a good I haven't finished yet. But
let's finish.
Okay, why not? It is easy to perceive that all the tooth is there.
You may not even need to, but we'll do it just to show. Right?
Exactly. To be honest, I need only to be, for the audience to see this region here. I have to remove this little
triangle.
I don't know if it's possible to hear, but there is a little excess here. With a scalpel. The clicking. With a little scalpel, you remove that with ease. A 15 blade or maybe a 12 blade we remove at ease. But let's use the system to show what we can use. This is the new spiral from Ultradent. It refers to the yellow cup that we already had. So that's the classic yellow. I'm going to first use the yellow. It's a two-step polishing procedure here. We're going to use the yellow, then the white one here. So let's start with the yellow one. And this is the idea. I'm going to use on the proximals. I can remove some of the excesses as well.
Can you compare this to the regular cup, the old Jiffy that you're accustomed to using?
Oh yeah. What I like about this spiral compared to the cup, I think the spiral you should use on all of the surface except close to the gingiva. It is, anatomically speaking, it's not meant for that region. So you can use in all buccal, proximal, incisal, everything, except out here on the cervical. But what I like, since I'm using the word forgiving a lot, is the pressure. So this pressure here, I get in camera, it's possible to see. It is very forgiving, because I just had this question last week from a dentist in Brazil, and he asked a teacher, a professor in Goiânia, I guess, and he asked how much pressure do we should apply, what is the speed we should use. It is hard to say the speed because it's based on the pressure. And the good thing about the spiral is the design of the spiral is forgiving about the pressure. So it's easier. There's never too much pressure with the spiral. So this is a good thing. It is very easy to get a polishing procedure here. Actually, I'm going to ruin the polishing here. I'm going to use on the surface.
And while you're doing that, I saw that gap. Is it possible to use veneer for diastema closure?
Oh yeah, definitely. Raimundo Sandoval, he has from Mexico, has a beautiful case on diastema closures. You can use anywhere, anytime you need something to help you with anatomy. That's the idea. And making, a shining surface and helping, this helping hand in anatomy and proportion. This is the concept, I guess, what is so good about the veneer.
And how would you do that? What do you put on the buckle as you're building up the closure?
Specifically on his case, I myself never used on diastema, but I saw his presentation. It's a very nice case. He used on the buckle, and he first did one of the tooth, and he did that because the enamel was very, I will use the term destroyed. The enamel was kind of destroyed, by I don't know who, but probably when removing the bracket, used, I don't know, it was not gentle removing that bracket with all the excess of cement. They damaged the enamel with the burr, a very thick burr, and he was not only closing the gap, but also making a more lustrous surface on both central incisors. So again, how can you use? That's a great way to use, and he did in 5 minutes.
Wow.
He did that, and a very predictable, very beautiful one. From the yellow, we go to the white one, to the white spiral. And there we go. There's our luster there again. And I think it is important to say that in camera. It's the first time I'm using, okay? So there is absolutely no learning curve here. It is the first time, and there's the shine back. I'm amazed, to be honest. I'm amazed, because it is the first time I'm trying. And can I take those home with me?
You know that we'll just let you steal. Last time you were stealing.
I'm not stealing.
You don't have to steal.
Yeah, I'm not stealing. I'm not stealing. I'm only taking without the knowledge of the owner. Okay, so that's
and again, we discussed this last hour. What's the word for that in Portuguese?
Stealing.
Stealing. Okay. Just checking.
And there we are, 2 steps polishing, as you promised, and I didn't believe you guys. And it's there. Nice looking, beautiful. Okay, another product to the list of cannot live, don't want to live without. Now the diff polishers on spirals as well.
So all I got to do is get everybody on Facebook Live, and I will sell out of Jiffy Naturals. Fantastic.
Very nice, very nice.
I don't know if I can scale that. Okay, well, thank you so much for going through that demo with us. We've gone through all of the questions already as we were doing this session, and thank you to Dr. Segal for being online to man the questions.
So it's been an honor to use your creation with you watching. It's been an honor.
An amazing creation,
Hope
an amazing person too. Thank you so much, Dr. Segal. Thank you, Dr. Beolchi, for all
Melanie,
of your
again.
time, especially on your birthday.
It's an honor for me.
And thanks to all of you who are joining us from all over the world. It was great to see comments from Australia and Mexico. Hello,
and
Juan
Brazil.
Martinez. Brazil.
And Brazil. And Brazil.
Did we say Brazil? I can't remember. Thank you to all of you for joining us. And if you didn't see our whitening session earlier today, now I will let you leave this session and go back and watch that one. Dr. Beolchi was so informative in that session as well. If you have any further questions, please feel free to leave them at the bottom here, and we will follow up with you, or Dr. Segal herself may follow up with you. Stay tuned for this weekend. Like I mentioned before, it's our Ultradent Summit, and we will be streaming several of the lectures live for you also, including this guy. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.